Hope it works out when I sing this song. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm in Los Angeles. Hi, there we are. Hi, welcome, everybody. Sorry about the delay on this morning's show, but I had, best laid plans of mice and men, as it were. I had some plans. The plans were to do the morning show from Vegas and then drive in the afternoon. And then a cat stepped on my junk at about 4 a.m. and I went, since I'm awake anyways. No, I'm not going to say up after I admitted that a cat had stepped on my junk early in the morning. But since I was awake anyways, I thought, hey, might as well hit the road. And I managed to make pretty good time. And the only thing that really got me hung up in a lot of ways, and welcome and hi and good morning and how are you, and those that are just going to be joining us in a big hurry, I have to open up my chat. I will be able to see you guys in just 1 second. I actually made pretty good time coming across, let's see, where am I? No, there it is, comments reaction. Hi, good morning. There you are. Hi, guys. The driving wasn't too bad. I got a little sleepy because I went to bed relatively late, as I'm wont to do, and I got up ridiculously early, thanks to Maddie, who has testicle sensing radar in the bottom of her bean toes, and has enough weight and girth as a cat to make it count. And so I, get up about 4 a.m., and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like, will I indeed get back to sleep? And the answer is obviously no. So I, after a little bit of turning and tossing, I decide to just go for it. So I get up and grab all my stuff for the Nerd Halen gig tomorrow night, my freshly pressed short sleeve white stretch button down. My black tie is here. 3 sets of nerd glasses as backups, just in case. And off I go. And really rock solid as far as drive. Left before the sun came up. And so it felt like a night drive in a way. And then about 6:20 a.m. the sun had been up for a little bit, and I was like, I'm starting to flag a little bit. So had to stop, get some gas, have some take a moment to caffeinate myself, and then get back on the road. So here I am, and here you are, and good morning, and happy Friday. How you doing? I'm going to reach out in the chat. Hal, did you layer your hair? No, I didn't. Last night, if I can, let's see, put this up there. Did I layer my hair? No, I did not. It is the exact same cut. It just, I basically, it was wet yesterday when I put stuff in it, and I liked it, so I left it. That's pretty much the answer. Let's see. It's basically Q&A Monday. This is great. Every other show has been boring the crap out of me just now. Oh, thanks. Do you mean every other show I do or just what's on? Because I think that, there's something to be said for it being extraordinarily dull news day on a Monday, considering people have, sad as it is, have in many ways, oh yeah, this is loud. Sorry about that. I mean, it shouldn't be crackling like that. I got to bring it up a touch, but I was peaking the meter on that. Yeah, there we go. A little pee-pop in there. Everybody's kind of over the story of the pandemic. We're almost in a zone of I know, or and then a mix of the crowd that says I don't know, I don't care, I don't know. I read on a thing on Facebook and I don't know anymore. And basically the public is divided into about 75 to 18%. 75 being we know. We mask up, get vaccinated, probably need a booster if you're old. And the kids one that's coming along soon, but they're ventilating the schools and we'll try harder and make sure and clean your hands and kids should be okay and we'll hope so and blah, blah, blah. Fingers crossed. We're all crossing the street blindfolded a little bit. And then on the 18% of the no, it's the whole disease. It's actually a blessing from the Lord. And if you take the vaccine, you have the mark of the beast. And if you get it naturally, you get the mark of do not resuscitate. And which I think is, Lovely. Where am I playing? We are at what formerly known as the San Manuel Indian Casino, which is, I'm going to blitz on the name right now, so I'm going to look it up. Because I even passed a billboard for it on my way into LA, which was Yamava. And there's a down Yamava accent on the end of it. There's a down accent or an apostrophe, depending on who's printing it out. But we're at Yamava, which is at San Manuel. So, do what you got to do. But they are rebranding as Yamava. Yamava. There's 2 A's, so I'm going Yamava. I'm giving it the Yatahe kind of double A hammer, and I think that's worthwhile. So we're at the Yamava Indian Casino at San Manuel, or the resort at San Manuel. It's a lot of... Somebody just realized that Spanish is a non-inflective Indo-European accent or language that made its way over here the same way English did, and they've stopped kind of, no pun intended, beating the drum of, like Spanish is organic and English is a GMO, as far as calling stuff. So it's a nice change. It's a nice wake up. Good morning, CSL. Good to see you, brother. Sorry I couldn't give a heads up, but as I rolled in here too, like I was beginning to say, audio's out? The audio's out entirely? Or is it up? Is it no sound? What happened? That's very strange. It sounds okay there, and it's in and out other places. That's fun. Why would that be? I'm just going to go that I'm being censored for saying Ya'amaba. Yeah, there's no sound. A video is 1 second delayed. I think it's just crap internet. The computer I'm on is the studio computer at the house, and it needs an update. It is in desperate need of an update. Let me see. Maybe if I change channels on this real quick, or if I let me switch to the audio on the Logitech Brio for a second and see if that makes any difference. If that brings it back in, or if it makes it any better, or if it makes it sound kind of... some people are saying it's fine, and some are like it's a little out of sync. All's well. I just switched over. It's in Riverside. Yes, Liz. That's so strange. It's funny that certain websites are being aware of it. No, we're not growing a stash. I just have a little bit of whisker. I didn't get a chance. I drove in this morning. I haven't had a chance to shave. So new mic bed. It's not so much it's an old mic. So let me switch back and see if the timing's any better. See if it kind of wakes it up. Twitch studio went out completely. Yeah. It did? Twitch went out completely? That's very strange. That might not be on me then. Maybe there's something else going on. I always think it's me. I always think it's best to understand that. According to this, I'm online on Twitch. But, we of course know that means nothing. And we'll just say soldier on as if. That's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. So, yeah, so I switched back to this microphone. It just might be that it's just the computer is sucky that I'm on. It needs to be updated. This I need to do. The guys at the house, Bumper and Chad, are terrible at maintaining the computer. They do not do updates. I don't know why. They are grown men. But when it comes to updating the system software or any of that stuff on the computer, they are grandmothers. It's the very strangest of things. So we will. So I figured if I jump back and forth between sources, it'll kind of wake it up. But fingers crossed. Anyways, hi. We'll just deal with the fact that it's gonna be wonky this morning just by chance. It's just how it rolls. There is let's see. There's so much news this morning, but for whatever reason I can't log into my my Twitter on this computer, nor do I want to right away for doing our trends. So I'll just read from here. I won't be able to show you, but we'll all kind of follow along, and that will kind of define what's going on. Mayor Pete is trending. We'll start with our trends. So Ivanka said something random about Mayor Pete. Is that the basis of this? Or is it just that Mayor Pete goes on Fox News and stomps a mud hole in them and marches it dry everywhere? It's always, sometimes it's hard to find out where these started. Mayor Pete's gone missing as U.S. supply chain on verge of collapse. I see. So this is the Georgia log cabin Republicans are going after Mayor Pete, who's in reality can do nothing about the global supply chain except exactly what Biden is attempting to do through the Build Back Better plan, which has a lot of money and a lot of investment in narrowing the supply chain, shortening it, and bringing it home. Because I've been watching. By the way, this morning on my drive in, I was watching a lot of foreign news sources that are really only available. Either you have to get an app or you can watch them on their channels on YouTube. Indian news sources, British, there's one Eastern European source that I occasionally look at that translates into English, and just to see what the take is. And everybody is panicking about two things right now. One is fuel shortages, that oil and coal are hard to come by currently, and China's in the middle of a terrible energy crunch itself. They're having huge blackouts there. India bought up a bunch of cheap Australian coal, and as soon as they started doing that, it was all sitting in boats or in warehouses in China, but China was refusing to use it. So India decided to buy it. As soon as they did that, then China, even though they have a kind of a soft ban on Australian coal, started looking the other way as it was sold and shipped inland to cover some of this stuff, because it's one of the reasons for the big blackouts. There's a lot of other reasons too, not the least of which is their hydropower from dams is collapsing because of a bunch of mismanagement and them falling apart. But India is also looking at the fact that coal's not going to be enough to sustain their needs. It's a supplementary thing, and they're chasing this as well. So of course we are as well, and this is one of the bigger reasons to avoid petroleum and fossil fuels as going forward, and as soon as possible in as large amounts as possible to get us to renewables, and even to some extent nuclear in the States in certain ways over the next 10 years, to absolutely isolate us from the need for fossil fuels going forward, because that supply chain in and of itself, the energy that runs everything that we do, is drying up. You guys have known for a long time that I'm a big believer in the theory that Saudi Arabia ran out of oil a long time ago, and that they're a cash poor country, and that they're going to start siphoning money out of their stock holdings in a way to support their lifestyle, and that won't last very long. India itself, it's curious to me as I've been looking more into it, as the amount of poverty in India versus the amount of poverty in China, and the idea that we've really looked at China as a developing nation and made that the focus of where we would build, put factories and all the like, whereas India finds itself in the same position, and yet we shy away from that kind of investment there. Is a strange thing, and is something you're seeing, like, both the investor class and governments asking that question even more, and hence the reinforcement of the Quad and the support of there's the TPP is now the CPTPP, which is way better, I think. We're getting into the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnerships, or which is also known as TPP 11, or TPP-11, which looks like -11, which it isn't. China wants to join it, but nobody else wants them in. But the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership is, I think, an attempt to rebrand the TPP for the political class in the United States that was against it. The problem is the word progressive is going to drive away the Republicans from joining it, even though it serves to isolate China in a lot of ways. So it's a South Korea is looking to join it. This is something that's going to be necessary over the next decade. Anyway, so I've been watching a lot of news about that and watching kind of the total lack of coverage about those kind of things on even CNN International in some ways. So, let's see, I'm scrolling forward on this in my Ecamm Live program. I don't know why it gives me a second little window. It's kind of enjoyable. Hi, moms. Thank you. Hello. Oh, by the way, I ended up getting my mail finally, and thank you for the birthday cards many of you sent, including our patrons. They're at my house, so when I'm back there and doing the show from there on Wednesday, I'm going to, if you'll indulge me in the regular show or in the morning show, depending on how exhausted I am after Tuesday night, because please, I will be, reading some of those cards. So if you don't want me to read what you wrote, let me know. But I'll but most of them are very lovely, and I'm very thankful. So I wanted to read those things. And then I got a couple of gifts from folks, and so I wanted to share that with everybody. So we'll do that on Wednesday. Yes, finally, exactly. And the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of, mixture of road time. This Saturday, I will not be doing a radio show. I'm going to have to do a best of, because I will be on the road doing a charity event on Saturday morning in Delaware. Now, I might be able to time it so that I could do the show before I leave, after I leave there and before I catch my flight. But I will be more than likely an exhausted mess, so I don't know what good I would be to anybody, because I'm red-eyeing in that morning and then coming back as fast as I can. And then the following week is Sexy Liberal, the 23rd. That's Saturday. So I will be doing my radio show from CPT's offices, from the studio. Yay! Me and Johnny Million will be in studio together. And then I'll hoof it up to Madison for that show and that night. And hopefully be able to share some, we're going to live stream that for people who get tickets. Go to sexyliberal.com for those tickets. But I'm also going to be capturing 360 video for that I'll start posting. I've been trying to sort through and find a really efficient way to post the 360 video I've been gathering since the Shakespeare show. And there's everything. It just farts out. Sorry, the problems with Twitch, I wouldn't blame any of these sites. It might just be the computer I'm on. The internet here should be fantastic, but we shall see. I don't quite know what the hang-up is and why it's dicey across the board, like where it's different on each site. Twitch has sound problems. Everybody just jumps around. So the sound problems were on YouTube, and now there's sound problems on Twitch. It's hard to say. I'm going to go with Restream at this point, and I apologize. I will do a regular show this afternoon, and I'll have more time to kind of check the settings before our afternoon show. Thanks, Thomas. And I'm glad everything sounds good on YouTube. Infotainmentwars.com if you want to hop over there. Like I said, the afternoon show will be more like our regular show. Fingers crossed. Oh, the sound is out of sync on Twitch? That's a very strange thing. Because I've got good bandwidth. I'm looking at the digits right here, and they look rock solid. So I don't know. It's very strange, and I started speaking with an accent when I get weirded out by that. Venice said, "Thank you for the super chat for Kibbles and Chips." Aw, yeah. Chip and Chud are now running buddies. Chud is the only cat in the house that Chip defers to when food comes out, because she's a whole lot of woman. And when you put the food out in the morning, he will eat everything because he's a growing kitty. And so, but Chud will wheeze her way and saunter her way over to the bowl to get her morning food, and she's very excited about it. And if I don't do it right away, she meows at me angrily. And Chip is like, if Murphy's trying to eat or Maddie's trying to eat, he'll just muscle in right next to them, and they get all weirded out, and they'll swat at him, but he'll still keep eating. With Chud, he'll just go, I guess I'm eating in this bowl till you're done with that one? Cool. And then he starts eating, and then she decides she's licked all the gravy off this food, so she wants to come and lick all the gravy off that food because that's her idea of breakfast. And then he just walks around her to the other side and just eats the food there. The Twitch sound is fine, but just slightly out of sync. I apologize for that. I wish I could fix it. I'm not quite sure what's doing it because it's fine on the other sites, so it might be a Twitch-centered mistake. So, sorry. I'm very, very sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Let's see. What else? Since it's early in the morning. Let's see what else is trending. Besides, everybody's on Mayor Pete because of the global supply chain. That's suddenly all, his fault. Which is just, like, batshit. Here's what I want to know. And this is, okay. Do you even know how to corporate, bro? Is my question to a lot of businesses. Because, 10 years ago, it looked like diversifying and spreading your supply chain really thin was the great way to Cisco your way to profits and make a lot of money because they made this tiny piece here, and they made this tiny little piece here, and we made this tiny little piece here, and then we had it assembled here, and then these people are good at at cleaning it, and these people put it in a box, and then they send it back to us, and we'll send it out. That might have seemed wise, and it did make money for these companies in the short term, meaning over the course of like 6 to 8 years as they're developing a product and gaining market share. But had they put the same effort into simply putting a, rooter to tutor factory in the United States for said thing, be it an iPhone or a Dell computer, Dell's one of the worst. Dell's spread all over the place. But if they'd have just built a factory where they were like, we get, plastics from here, and we have a plant at the factory that makes the shells. We got a circuit board printer. We got a chip printer. We've got we fabricate things. As long as we can get the materials, we can just make the shit here. We make all this, the myriad of parts. Some stuff we might get, like somebody makes a really good video card, so we'll buy it from them. But we'll probably insist that they make theirs in the States or someplace close by or in Canada or someplace that if we need, we can just drive down there and pick the goddamn thing up. But like right now, somewhere in the order of like 86% plus of the global supply chain goes by sea, and a vast majority of it comes from across the Pacific Ocean from China to the west coast of the United States before it spreads out to everywhere else. And it might have seemed that you were indeed making money during these times, when indeed you were not. You were simply digging a hole and going, look at all this dirt we have. I'm in the dirt pile business. Look, I'm making so much. Look, we have all this extra dirt. Meanwhile, digging a hole deeper for yourself that eventually you can't get out and do stuff with the dirt. It's like a farmer who decides, like, this plot of ground has all the dirt I'll ever need for topsoil. I'm losing topsoil, so I found it, instead of using my whole farm, I'll just dig down and get all the soil out of this one spot, and I'll spread it out over the field. But then you keep digging long enough where you're stuck in there and you can't get out of the hole, and all the soil just gets blown away and, it dries up and is useless. And there's a case to be made that the business decisions that globalize the supply chain to such a drastic amount, you can't separate it from the downside of something like COVID or 2008, that's part and parcel to it. So the profits you made, you have to weigh them against the losses you're experiencing here to zero out whether or not that was a good decision or not. And quite frankly, most of these companies are in a hole because of this. So the decision ultimately was anti-profit, anti-business, and certainly terrible for the overall health of the company that whoever these CEOs were making. And so this is, there's too many chances for a weak link to break, and that's exactly it. And right now, you have a situation where if any of them go south, there was I forget what year it was. I want to say 2008, but it might have been a couple of years later. But there was an earthquake off of Taiwan, and there was a huge chip factory that was there, and then there was a blockade from China in the 90s. Both of them created a lag in electronic parts, specifically chips that were being manufactured, and then circuit boards. And those would get shipped to China from Taiwan to get installed in computers, because a lot of stuff that says made in China is actually assembled in China. It's made from parts all over the place. And so those two things, that earthquake and then that blockade, hung up the technology, that everybody was counting on, these like new lines of computers. And Dell computers at one point, like Compaq, when it was a computer system, I was just reading an article about this, but the Compaq had like a history of having 6 to 8 months worth of inventory at any given time. And this is what it was kind of their order of business, their mechanic of how they operated. Dell got down to the point where they were like, they have 3 weeks to like 12 days of inventory at any given time. And Cisco, the company, made its bones by essentially just being a digital management system. They didn't make anything they sold. They bought it and just kind of orchestrated everything and then slapped a Cisco label on it, and out it went. And so Dell, in competing with that kind of model, shrunk its actual footprint on the computers it was making, to the point where if there was more than a 2-week interruption of anything, or a 3-day one that caused 2 weeks of cascading disruptions in other areas, because if this piece doesn't get here, then this thing doesn't get built, and this gets backed up, and they try to make money by moving other stuff in. Well, while we're not building your shit, we'll build their shit while this shit is not coming in, and then your shit comes in. It's got to wait for us to finish this shit before that shit goes out. And it's just the whole thing turned to shit, is my point. The shipping, unloading, loading issue is more COVID-related than what I understand, because there aren't enough longshoremen working. That is absolutely true, but it's also a bottleneck of a backlog of items that were paid for a long time ago and have, it took them that long, been sitting, never got finished, electronic devices, furniture, whatever. They got made in China, was ordered, 6, 10, 15 months ago or whatever, and just froze in place until they started up again. And then they kind of got started in fits and starts. Then they had another outbreak in China, and then another one. And now they've got a power problem, so they're shutting down power to factories. And in reality, there's, the power lapses in Chinese factories arguably can have a twofold effect. One is they're terrible for Chinese business in general, is the thought. But they also tend to strangle and put pressure on both administrations and governmental organizations on the end of the supply chain in the Western countries, which benefit China to some degree, because anything that hurts the West helps them is imaging-wise. Any complaints, anything that's not working, they can go, see, that's the problem with that kind of society. And so by triggering inflation, they actually benefit. So beyond them shutting down factories because they don't have enough stuff, the strategic, enough energy for them, the strategic value is there as well. And that's, it's a little. We'll see what the transition looks like, but in the Build Back Better plan, there's a lot of seed money for fixing the supply chain and moving it closer to home, and using the USMCA, formerly known as NAFTA Plus, as the groundwork for, okay, we'll work with our neighboring partners so that if there's something terrible happens, we can still send trucks, to get the stuff if it's stuck someplace. as opposed to, if shipping stops, we're done. Because again, you're absolutely right that the longshoremen and the COVID restrictions and health and the available workforce and all that kind of stuff and the machinery itself is overwhelmed currently by that backlog. It's basically a giant bottleneck. So isn't anti-Westernism a government advertising is anti-Westernism a government advertising or cultural ideology? It's more governmental because the Chinese people, person to person, unless they've totally swallowed the nationalist egg, are completely, ask people from Hong Kong and Taiwan. It's not a Chinese culture thing. Culturally, Chinese could be very happy with democracy, it seems. And that's why the Chinese CCP has to step on it so hard all the time. If they weren't, right, they wouldn't have to fight it so hard. They wouldn't be so angry about it. They wouldn't have to worry about the absorption of Taiwan and the shutting down of Hong Kong, right? So it's more a governmental thing. They take advantage of anti-Western sentiment inside Western countries from the counterculture and that kind of stuff that might have legit gripes or issues with the structure of the system and how it can work better and the like. And then they just kind of foment this, like, it all sucks, it has to be torn down idea. And then they ride it. And it's a machine over there right now. And Taiwan will not take being absorbed kindly. No, they will not. And I don't see it happening. And I think you're going to see an increased troop presence in Taiwan. It started with them making the Chinese aware that we have troops there training the Taiwanese forces. It will also, I wouldn't doubt that in the same way we have Chinese subs, U.S. subs are going to be watching China that are going to be parked in the ports and renting port space effectively from Australia in northeastern Australia. But as we build theirs, or they build theirs using our technology, what have you, that we're very close to a U.S. ship accidentally on purpose having to, go to a port in Taiwan temporarily to offload some stuff and pick some stuff up and whatever, that kind of stuff. Watch for that gamesmanship. To be, to start working its way in a risk kind of a way. But we've already got, a couple of dozen training troops there, which means that, and they're working on the beaches on the western side of the island, training troops against, what would effectively be a Chinese invasion. And that makes it really hard for the Chinese to invade because they're gonna, they would be in danger of harming U.S. troops, which is a huge escalation. And they're aware that they have a lot of ships and a lot of subs and they just build and build and build. But if you've seen their buildings, the ships, while they look impressive, have untested crews and are probably not that great. Yeah, to treat them like they're amazing if you're going to, go to war against them or experience that kind of stuff. But for the most part, so it's a I just had a new one show up, starved, just feeding him. All mine are fixed, only 2 to 3 most of the time. Because 7th cat, oh my gosh. And 5th black cat on the feeding bill. Oh, well, you got to save the black cats. You got to bring them inside. Evergreen is Taiwanese, so I work for them forever. Mm-hmm. I loved Taiwan when I was there. It's so good. And like in a lot of ways, if you want to see, Chinese, if you like Chinese culture, Taiwan's really the place to go see it these days. Because unfortunately, from my experience, as much as I was wide-eyed and very excited about going to China to do the travel show, the more time I spent there, the more I was aware that it was what I was seeing had about as much in common with actual Chinese culture as a Harley Davidson restaurant has with a motorcycle. You know what I mean? It's a branding exercise, unfortunately. So it's a little sad. But Air travel from Australia to anywhere is very expensive. Domestic flights aren't cheap either, but if you book it, plenty of places to go there. Yes. It's a great trip. I hope to make very soon. Anyway, so I like the global supply chain thing is the single most important political shift you will see in how U.S. corporate structures are run, Western corporate structures are run, Indian corporate structures are run. Depending on the Belt and Road impact on Africa, you'll see, and the mining sector in Africa is going to start pushing back against this because they're not going to like it. And then there's a very strong chance that ISIS and the Taliban, the one area where for them the enemy of my enemy is my friend is how the Chinese government is treating the Uyghurs. So it's a crazy time, like geopolitically, in terms of China. It was almost a foregone conclusion a few years ago that China was going to take over the world, and I myself, I found myself like kind of believing it for a little while, looking at it on the, just superficially. But the more you dig down, the more it's not even close to true. And many of you know that I've had this theory for a while, and this is kind of a rando conversation to have on our Monday morning show. But hey, we're chit-chatting, and that's how it goes. But when I went to China, what's one of the biggest things you hear about China is that there's a billion people. Well, it's over a billion people. It's 1.2 billion. Well, maybe worldwide there's 1.2 billion Chinese people, but the idea is that they're inside China. There's 1.2 billion people, and I've been there during Chinese New Year. I've been there in the biggest cities: Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing. Chongqing supposedly got 35 to 50 million people, depending on who you ask. And the analogy I always use is that I love New York. I'm a big fan. New York has about 7 million people in it, including the boroughs. And if you walk through anywhere in New York, you can't stick your arms out while you're walking down the street and not hit someone. Maybe late at night, maybe in a rando warehousey part of town or a more industrial space after work hours. But that's because the rest of the city is nearly tipped over into the water because there's so many people at all the restaurants and stuff. But if you walked by and just kind of stuck your arms out like you're in Unbreakable, you'd bump into a lot of people. You'd touch a lot of people. There were many times in Chongqing, which is a city that's, like I said, supposed to have twice the number of people in it that are in all of Australia in one city. There were lots of times when we were walking around where traffic was really light, and if I walked through a lot of places, if I held my arms out, even in places that were supposed to be bustling, I wouldn't bump into anybody. It's an absurdity. If anybody knows how much I love the movie Tootsie, for example. The big reveal in Tootsie when he dresses in drag to go to the audition, and creates the Dorothy Michaels character and goes there and he's wearing his wig and all that kind of stuff. And you just see the little pieces that he's doing. And then you see him, the way you see him is there's this huge crowd of people. It's a New York street. I think it's like Fifth Avenue or something. And it's just teeming with human beings. And here he comes with his little red hair, just kind of becomes visible into the shot, and you're like, oh my God, there she is. This is the reveal of what Michael Dorsey's character that he creates, right? And in going to, when I was in China, and I had a great time in Chongqing. There was some great food there, super spicy, great food. And, a couple of really fun places. We went to this little kind of town mall where everybody goes, or allegedly everybody goes. And again, there were people there, but it was 3/4 empty all the time, everywhere I went. Which is bizarre in a city that's supposed to be, that's the size of Manhattan, maybe even a little smaller as far as landmass, not even the boroughs. It's smaller. It's about the size of downtown Cincinnati, depending on what they consider the end of it, because it's kind of in a valley, but to the hills, this area. And in that, it was never crowded. And it would seem to me like I could not get that vision of, Tootsie walking through a crowd in New York City. Again, only 7 million people in the entire area with the boroughs. And it would seem like, logically, that if you had the same space and, 8 times the number of people, you wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Right? Seriously. And I'll show you some of the pictures. Hey, Rob. Yes, Hong Kong is a great example, Rob. Hong Kong is totally packed. And that's because you've got a majority of, like Cantonese people and some mainland Chinese people and Europeans who are doing business there. And it's a small area, and they're all stacked in that space. Now, even there, I would go to the underground mall that they have there. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like Alien or Battlestar Galactica. The tunnels are kind of octagonal rectangles. They're kind of slanted hallways, and they're pretty short. And it's these malls that kind of go underneath the ground for a while. It's really awesome. And I really enjoyed some of the clothes that I bought there because it's one of the few places I get to buy a large. And yes, known for its density, largely because of the confluence of people that are there. I did New Year's in Thailand, and my buddy Chris Bono and I were there when it happened, and they did fireworks at the World Trade Center in Bangkok, which is, sort of in its own part of the town. And there was like 1.5 million people crushed into this area, like you could barely move through the crowd. And they fired fireworks off the top of these 5-story buildings, so it was all right there. It was crazy, sweaty, and full of people, and just it just was a nightmare waiting to happen as these fireworks were firing. Like, they're right there, and pro fireworks, the giant kind that cities in civilized areas of the world, bless your heart, Bangkok, but that's crazy. Do it over the river. This is enormously dangerous. But they were just firing them off over the top of the buildings. Like, okay, just what the hell. And when we went to this other, I went to in where was it? Shit, a couple of the cities blend together. But I was at one of these places. They fired off fireworks, and something bounced off like a light rigging, and a giant, one of those normal giant-sized fireworks that you see in a 4th of July celebration, went right into the crowd, and everybody just scattered, and it went badow, and I was like maybe 100 yards from that. It was just crazy. It's craziness. But the point is, it was incredibly packed, in Bangkok, in this area in Thailand. And when I was in China, it never was. So I've been talking about this for a while, and I brought it up to a couple of people. And one of the new pieces of information that kind of came my way recently was that I talked to somebody who does like sales in China. And so they talk about like online sales in China and what the statistics are and that kind of stuff. And what they find is that while there are 1.2 billion email addresses plus for all the people that are in China, when it comes to a big, like Black Friday kind of a thing, or a big sale day, or Chinese New Year's, or something where everybody in the country goes online practically to buy something for their, for their family members or something, and the entire country, but for, a give or take, 50 million people uses their phones and stuff or digital online stuff, because everything there is that way. They only get about 600 million hits. And in a country that's expanding like it says, and it has has 1 billion too, it would be way closer to 800 million or something like that, or 1 billion even if you're 1.3, right? that you're thinking 300 million are in total poverty and don't use this thing. Everybody else pays for everything on their phone. So the day that something happens in that window of time where everybody has to send flowers to their mom or what have you, they really only have about 600 million hits. And it just stands out to me. Anyways, this might be boring to people or whatever, but I think it's integral to our understanding of what's going on currently. And when it comes to Wuhan is like that as well, says Philip. Wuhan's like that too. Not always packed, but there are always people for miles and miles, never empty. Yeah, but Wuhan is not like the alleged population. Let's see what they actually list it as. Especially now, Wuhan population, 2021. So yeah, Wuhan's listed as at 8.4 million people. It's a relatively big city, but that's like New York. It reads like New York. Wuhan, the experience of it is New York. But Chongqing, like I said, is supposed to have, let's see. If I'm going to see if they actually have it listed here. Populate. Whoops. Population 2021. Where did you go? I think Chongqing population. Chongqing's population. Yeah, so when we were there, and this is depending on their numbers. The number I heard every time I was there was 35 million. I've heard from, some of the other people I know, they would say 50 million or something. This is 16 million people. Okay, so let's, now an estimated 16 million. In 1950, it was 1 million. Let's see, Chinese metro, 16, 8, and that's the downtown part of it. So then the surrounding area, they think, probably makes up the difference. Kind of like Manhattan versus the boroughs and New York as a city, right? Population increased 3.2 million in the past decade, which is not even close to true. Here's another one. Population Hub says 29 million. It's the number one city for population. Yeah, so they got 29 million on this population 2021 site. The Russians cited is also 2021. Their statistic is 29,914,000. There is no way in a city that size that there's that many people. I think the 16 million number is still too high. I just think there's a lot of buildings. When we were in Chongqing, we stayed in this hotel, and it was really nice, but it was half empty. And then across from out my window, they had made a duplicate of the Chrysler building, but gold, the Chrysler building in New York. And while they were at it, they just made two of them and put a bridge between them. It was hilarious. I'm like, why would you even do that? Yes, 29 million in one city. According to Russia's statistics and that kind of stuff, that's what they're saying. I don't buy it because I was there. Parts of it were just straight up barren. And in a city that size, with that many people, you're talking about like nearly every inch of ground covered with people doing stuff, going somewhere, Did they all, unless the idea is that they all stay home and they're always indoors and they don't go anywhere, and no matter what hour of the day it is, because I was up at ass in the morning, and we went out late at night, and we went to restaurants in the middle of the day and met with local artists and that kind of stuff. I met this Chinese rapper at this tea house down on the river, and I'm like, there's just nobody around. How? So anyways, I think it's, it'll be a fascinating reveal over the next couple of years as information starts to pour out. Xi Jinping's basically made himself, president for life of the Communist Party. But we'll see how that works out, because there's a bunch of apparently internal factions who were kind of liking the openness of the society and were making a lot of money and were all right with it. And then he started his crackdowns, and now they're mad. So we'll see. It's fake people, yeah. The inner city populations in China are declining. Yeah, but they're not going anywhere. It's not like the countryside's filling up with people. Yeah, they're counting dead people like all the votes for Donald Trump, right? I wonder if the Arizona they found any ashes for dead Chinese netizens who voted for Donald Trump. That was their dying wish. I kid, of course. Fake rice counts in China. Why not, people? Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people know that the fake rice thing, where they take a bag of rice and then they make spaghetti basically, and then they cut the spaghetti using a little like dicer, and then they put the chipped spaghetti in the noodles in the rice bag to puff it out. So you have a bag. It's a 5-pound bag of rice, and it's a pound of actual rice and 4 pounds of chopped spaghetti. I've told people about the Australian beef dude who was like, yeah, man, everything over here is fake. How do you make it's like fake eggs and fake avocados? Like, who goes through the work? Just grow some avocados. It was hilarious. It was one of those things where we're trying to create a a decent idea of like, what are people's lives like this without being mean to the Chinese people or even the government in general. Just kind of like, it's a travel show. We're not going to get too deep into stuff. And then, of course, as the Xinjiang stuff started coming out, it became increasingly clear we weren't going to be able to avoid talking about this. But this dude, Rice-A-Roni, I'm not kidding. That's kind of what you're talking about. Yes, I do, Kenneth. Thank you. We're trying to be good. I can make an onion using 4 onions. Just build it. Yeah, build a better onion. Yeah, it's rice-a-roni on a massive scale. The San Francisco treat was actually a trick. It's not a treat. It's a trick or treat. Yeah, that's you could arguably say that's where it came from. Yeah. The San Francisco trick. Check out the ADV channel here. Good China stuff. Yeah, I know those guys. Sea Milk and Serpent ZA. Lao Y 86, I think, is Sea Milk's name on or whatever. Yeah. I watched a bunch of their stuff when we were prepping to go to China to kind of catch up on like what was being said around the margins. And they did motorcycle tours, and I ride a motorcycle, so I immediately, I obviously caught on to their channel early and stuff. They've now left the country. They're now out of China. They've bailed with their families. I'd love to go to China again one day as well, but not in its current form. It's really sad. If you want to go to China right now, go to Taiwan. Honestly, if you want to experience like the tea culture and the historical culture and the people and all that stuff, like, go to Taiwan. Everybody's lovely. It's really nice. I mean, there's some crazy shit there too, but not anywhere. Yeah, to prevent China's 3-time population from eating all of my food, I started a small greenhouse for myself, even though I'm not a farmer. Yeah, well, they're running out of food too. They've had flooding like crazy. They don't manage it well. Everybody was lying about their stocks and stuff. Like, oof. Yes, then hit New Zealand, right? Hate any food with "roni" in its name. I don't know. Barfaroni? Yeah. Scotland's lovely. I loved going to Scotland, and my only regret when I went to Scotland was at that time I hadn't found out that I was actually part Scottish, that I had like 26% Scottish in me. Like the whole thing had been, like my whole family were like English and Irish, on that side. And then it turns out we've got a lot more Scottish in there than we knew. And it was really nice to find that out, And then, of course, I became a Freemason. And, but when I went to Edinburgh, had I known that I was 26% Scottish and, had I joined the Masons beforehand, I could have gone to Rosslyn Chapel and really enjoyed it, But I did go. It was lovely. It's really nice. It's a nice little trip. If you've ever been there to Edinburgh, you take a little bus up to Edinburgh, to the Rosslyn Chapel, that's made famous in Dan Brown's book, like he talks a lot about Rosslyn Chapel and what's it called? Angels and Demons, and what's the other one? Lost Symbol. What was the first one? I'm blitzing on its name. Anyways, good stuff. It's really nice. Oh, Robin, thanks very much. In honor of my Chihuahua, Leo. Oh, I'm sorry your Chihuahua passed. Bye, Leo. Thanks for being a great dog. By the way, Tokyo is what? Hold on. Somebody was like, I loved Edinburgh so much. Fringe Fest is amazing, and it felt great to perform there. Yes, I loved Edinburgh so much. Fringe Fest, yes. Somebody was saying, I do indeed understand, Lynette. Fear not. Your hair looks natural today, Al. Oh, thanks very much. It was just wet, and then I just didn't do anything with it, really. I didn't get to blow dry it, so it's just kind of like laying down, As far as I know, got no Scots in me. Would you like some? Yes, Da Vinci Code, thanks. I don't know why I blitzed on that. It's so funny. Right? Smuggle me out some heather from Scotland. They won't. I have to start eating dirt. It's not like they have fished the ocean out. Well, their problems around Africa. They're overfishing the African coast. It's pretty terrible. Yeah, we're pretty good at protecting ours, but they're not at all. I have an old British hairstyle. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've got old British blood. My clan is from Dudi, equally beautiful. Oh, I'd love to go. I need to do like a full-on trip now. Now that I've done my 23andMe and I have an excuse, do a travel show. Like, I should call up like 23andMe and go, hey, just like show me where I went to, because I've like recently even a bit of it came up, like the Celtic blood in my family line that goes through France and Germany and all that is, just like learning that shit is fantastic, and like the distance your family members traveled to find someone to sleep with. And the Sparks is we're a horny bunch. We'll cross mountain plains and, rivers and fields, ice plains, and fight off woolly mammoths for a fine piece of arse, We're known for it the world over. Jesus and Mary Jane in Scotland, yeah. It's going to be called Beijing Barbecue, but the chef got threats. What was going to be called Beijing Barbecue? Beijing Kao Ya is great. Like the Beijing roast duck. It's a fabulous dish. It's a, in many ways it's better in the States in some ways. I have no Scots, Irish, English, Spanish, or Portuguese. Everything to the east, though. Oh, that's cool. My maiden name is Sparks. Oh, there you go. Mary Russell. You're obviously from good stock. The original tribes. I'm Irish, can't get more Irish than Timmins and Kyle. Oh, yeah. Duck season, fire. Right. Love kilts, great breezes. Yeah. You think Chinese use North Korean slave labor? Yeah, well, they have enough of their own. And I don't know that they trust the labor from there. They've got plenty, believe me. They don't need, they got lots of people they have locked up and build stuff. I wouldn't put it past them, but I would say that they just wouldn't, A, need it, and B, trust its consistency. Hey, good stuff. Be true. I vote more kilts. Yes, I would wear my kilt more often out in public. I need to do that. Except my legs are too pale. I gotta get a tan. Can't run around with pale legs. It's gross. And you don't have to, men, you don't have to shave your leg hair, but trim it down a little bit if it's a little unkempt, you know what I mean? Like, do it like your sideburns, you know? Just manscape a touch. Please. I asked my wife if she had any Scottish in her. She said no. So I asked her if she wanted something. Yeah, right. Yeah. There's a lot of that around. You know they have a techie sports kilt. Oh, yeah. No. I have a couple of different, like wearable work kilts. Yeah. David Tennant's your favorite Scottish actor? There's no love whatsoever for Sean Connery then. That's a bit sad. Everyone thinks that's the accent. Which is, I really think that it's just basically someone trying to burn down their Scottish accent by pulling it back into their teeth. And just eventually, I'll just shuffle my way through this. It's like, and I know what it's like to try and choke an accent to death. I've done it, you know. So when I left Kentucky, man, I sound like Elvis Presley, man. I had a little, big old, lazy Kentucky accent, just kind of, hey y'all, I don't know, man, whatever, that kind of thing. Robbie Burns is your favorite poet. It's good to have a favorite poet. I don't know that I have one. Yes, the Utilikilts are great. Yeah, Sean Connery slowly burned his accent. Goodspeed. You know where that name comes from. How are you going to see the Bond film? Yeah, I'll see it. I do think the conversation about Bond as a woman or another race is a little silly, since the character in the books is a Scottish orphan, and there was Scottish. The idea was that he was a Scottish separatist who ends up working for British MI6, and there's this back and forth of, can you trust him? But he was raised in the British system, so he's got love of country and yada yada yada. It's just like, I'm like, can we just make some original characters? You know what I mean? Like, how hard was it? John Wick is now a perennial character. I mean, I don't know that, somebody like, who's the next John Wick quite yet, but it's not out of the question, right? The Crow came out of nowhere. So if we want Idris Elba to have make a Luther movie, blow it up, make a character for him. You know what I mean? It seems, just like the retreading of stuff seems a little ham-handed. And Daniel Craig had a great response to that argument. I'm sure he did. Yeah, Bond was 1947. I just think, just create new characters. Have the decency to do that, right? 002 and a Half Men, right? Charlie Sheen. Oh, what a mess. No more James Bond. Tiresome, seeing too many. Well, the idea of the James Bond thing is sort of the take on the idea. Who does it better? But I feel like the Daniel Craig version is too Bourne Identity, and it got too guttural. And the idea of the gentleman spy, and intrigue and little devices and, not big gunfights and stuff like that, but like diffusing bombs and secretive stuff was part of the spy part of it, as opposed to overt warfare where it's just run and gun, firing loudly. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Remember the movie Assassins with Stallone and Antonio Banderas? Who, by the way, I just watched again in Desperado, and I fucking love that guy. Can I just say, he consistently makes great stuff. And Antonio Banderas, we salute you. There's another character, the Desperado character. Why not? Yes. How about relaunch and get a new guy playing Desperado if he doesn't want to do it anymore or hand it off? You know what I mean? That's an awesome character. And yet it just kind of withers on the vine. And it's there. It's right there. And it's culturally significant. It's fantastic. It's, it's intriguing. It's but the same thing is kind of, The only problem, and it's funny because I love the show Luther. The only problem I have with Luther as a show is the same problem I have with all British detective television shows. England, Great Britain, UK, downtown London. Why are all your great detectives, with the exception of Sherlock, and I guess technically he's a drug addict, so we'll just leave that there, are all withering drunks with personality disorders? They've either got brutal anger issues or are alcoholic on top. Like, it's not hard enough just fighting crime and having a relationship. You can't fucking write a character that has a difficult enough time just seeing murder all the time or dealing with crimes or trying to solve the missing person thing. And that's, you do realize that's a torturous existence all on its own. It doesn't need any help. Do some police officers deal with alcoholism and stuff? Of course they do. But they don't all. They're not all like psychologically broken. Yeah, it wasn't Sherlock a cocaine addict. He was well, arguably he's a heroin addict. And in the they tip and nod to it in the Cumberbatch thing, but he's just trying all kinds of stuff. He's basically like covering himself in nicotine patches and and doing God knows what. And then at one point he's allegedly shooting up and hanging out in these flop houses, and they have to go find him, which is, by the way, related to the books, because in the books, Watson has to go get him out of an opium den at one point. Which was, I think, a cautionary tale about Britain's dabbling in the opium wars and in the opium trade after the opium wars. It was only 7% solution of cocaine, right? Marcella is a perfect example of a tortured British detective. Absolutely. Like, I love the Marcella series, but it just goes friggin' bonkers at some point. Calm down. You know what I mean? Like, stuff is hard enough, but like it's so trite. It's so like all the British detectives have emotional problems. They're all seeing a shrink. They're all on drugs or drunk. They all like the same, and it's not that they're all a mess, but they're all the same kind of mess. Like, I get it. Give them something. It's like there was a thing in like an American media and movies especially, where if you had a daughter in a movie for about 8 years, she had asthma or a peanut allergy, or she was or both. What I think of Jason Statham? I think he's great. I don't do a very good Jason Statham. I got to work on that. What's that one for? For the Germans. Yeah, I like him, and he didn't start off as a martial artist, but he trained really hard, and his stuff in the Transporter movies is terrific. I enjoy it quite thoroughly. So I like Jason Statham. I'm a big fan of the movie Snatch. I enjoy it quite. It's one of my comfort movies. He was an Olympic diver, which explains his physique. I think The Wire just dealt with divorced cops, right? Which is a common thing as well. But again, not all of them. If you value your sanity, do not watch Trump rallies. Well, without me. Don't watch Trump rallies unless I'm there to guide you through it. Because this afternoon we will look at the tail end. How about Vinnie Jones? The guy, Bullet Tooth Tony? Is that the guy who plays Bullet Tooth Tony? He's great. Yeah, I will be going over the Trump rally later today. 2 minutes, Turkish. It was 2 minutes, 5 minutes ago. What's wrong with this one then? Nothing, Tommy. It's tip-top. I'm just not sure about the colour. Doctor Who premiere October 31st. Ray Milland, George, yeah. Snatch is fantastic. He was a footballer. That makes total sense. You think Bannon was there? Of course he was. Have I seen Blade Runner? It is actually my favorite film. The original one. And the original cut with the original voiceover. I like the other versions, but my favorite is the one that was theatrically released. Stop fucking around with the stuff I learned to like. I hate that. Your show is a Trump rally commentary. Thanks, Tom. I can only listen to the man with you guys. He makes me cringe every time I hear his voice. Well, he should, But at the same time, the danger is taking him seriously or letting it slide. There's too many people in the news media right now, especially going, "Oh my God, he's such a danger to the world." I'm like, yeah, kind of, but not. But partly what makes him a danger is you keep saying he's a danger. It's like fucking Al Qaeda or MS-13. The way Trump talks about MS-13. Is, oh my God, MS-13, they're everywhere, and MS-13's like winning ground as a gang because this asshole can't stop boosting them. So, at some point you have to go, I'm not going to, I refuse to take it seriously. I'm not going to. If somebody does something, put them in jail and we'll deal with that other. But up until that point, I'm going to clown on them for the clowns that they are. Period. End of story. The U.S. submarine collision. Nobody is saying, oh, thank you, Patricia. Hal, did you see that Trump made a video in support of Ashley Babbitt's family? Yeah, he sent her a birthday wish. He basically sent him a cameo. And it's fucking embarrassing, and it should be, and that's just fine. I have no problem with it. It's just, yeah. She's totally partial to Periwinkle Blue. Right. Yeah, it's just silly. Bill Maher is convinced he'll run in 2024. I call bullshit. I don't think so. Nope. That's dumb. I'm just saying. No. He's going to milk as much money out of this. And then, no, I didn't see Maher's monologue. Actually bad shit. We can't turn it. MS-13 is dangerous gang that mutilates people. Yeah, they are. But they're not the most dangerous gang in the world. That's not the point. There are dozens of gangs that work in the United States, including like, cartel-linked ones that are vicious as well. The Hells Angels, fucking the Peckerwoods, the Aryan Nation. I think the gnarly, awful people. There's lots of these gangs. They're by no means the top, most vicious gang in the country, but they have gained ground and notoriety because Trump won't stop boosting them up. And that's the danger of it, is if you allow that to stand, then you're contributing. So a lot of people, like, by talking about Trump as if he's like, oh my God, he's a total danger, totally zip past the parts where he's a fapping pile of goo with insulation for hair and a deteriorating brain. And I'm not going to not say that. Like, I'm not going to let that slide. Yeah, he's promoting them. Yes, and MS-13 is also predominantly Americans. No sound on Twitch, or is it just me? I don't know, because there's something about Twitch that's being very strange. I apologize if anybody, I'll work on it, see if I can do something. I don't know if I could, according to this, everything seems to be firing on all cylinders, as far as bit rate and frame rate and all that stuff. So I'm not, yeah. So apologies if it's a bit weird. There's nothing I can do about that because it's not showing any anomaly on there. I've got a bad Twitch. 2024, Trump's diaper are going to have to have suspenders. No kidding. I'm telling you. And the most important thing that I think viewers of my show can do is remind everyone constantly, whenever they say he's going to run in 2024, is that he's a mess right now. And he's going to be like, he's touring around and they're selling Fix 2020 shirts. There's a Fix2020 or something .com website for all this stuff. They don't give a shit about 2024. These people think like, we've got to solve that it was stolen, he's stolen, because he knows by then it'll be too late. His debts will come due. It won't matter if the DOJ dicks around and if Merrick Garland doesn't have the guts to go after him and if the SDNY stuff, falters or takes its sweet time, because he can't pay back Deutsche Bank and all these other banks. He can't do it. And every dime he's getting through that super PAC, he needs to spend to keep his stuff afloat. He's going to restructure some loans, and he's going to sell some stuff off, and he's going to sell the post office building or his lease or whatever, and he's going to sell his Scottish golf course because that's always been a loser, and he can use that as an excuse to like, well, we just jettisoned it, and we're going to open it up to, so we got these other better deals. And then there's going to be some talk about like, maybe it's time for, Trump Tower Moscow after all, and then, everybody's going to recognize that, Putin's on a big fade too, and that money's not coming. I'm telling you, the dude is collapsing before our eyes. He's in crap shape, and as much as every word they're saying about Biden, every word that you see on Sky News Australia or Fox News, any of the Murdoch properties, Newsmax, any of those where they make fun of Biden's cognitive abilities, it's all because they're overreacting to the shit show that is Trump when he speaks right now. And they know it. They're just wigging out. Because we don't have, as Democrats, we don't have all of our eggs in the Biden basket. He'll be a great president. He might even, if he runs again, he'll win. And he'll be another great president for another 4 years. And yes, he'll have, moments where he seems old and frail and blah, 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 or his stammer will get away from him, or he'll misspeak or something like that. As if, Bush 2, who was significantly younger, didn't talk out of his ass constantly and still won 8 years in the White House. Are you kidding me? I mean, do we have to go through like all the times like, Bush 2's, W's malapropisms that he went all the time is ridiculous, right? But Biden will do some of those. But as Democrats were like, and then there'll be somebody else after that. The Trumpers and the maggots, there is no anyone after that. The only person that, even gets floated in that zone is Ivanka being a natural heir to the whole thing, as if she's some sort of Kardashian. But none of the Trumper and maggot men will vote for a woman anyways. Their sexism is way out over their Trump skis. So it won't matter. Yeah, is our children learning? Right. You got to learn to put, people are struggling to put food on their family. 3 jobs, that's uniquely American. And maggots is spelled M-A-G-A-T-S, and the M-A-G-A is all caps, just so you know. That's the maggots. Do you see Steve Scalise on Fox? Yes, when he's talking about it, they cornered him about it. Because he can't, you got to understand, a lot of those guys just know that they're the activist class of the Republican Party will not come out for you in primaries or in these elections if you don't go all in on this. So they're looking at 2022. Every time you see a Republican on the news refusing to admit that Biden won and that Trump lost, and it was fair and square, and it was normal, and yet no matter what people's questions are, we can pass some laws because we have concerns, but it's all about election integrity vote. They can dance around that, but if they're not willing to say that Biden won, what they're saying is that they're on shaky ground in their district because they're being outright flanked in this situation. And the lunatic that's going to run against them is going to win that primary or push them out or damage them so much that a Democrat could win in their district. And that's what they're staring at. So that all the worries about, the Democrats in 2022 and, whether or not they'll, retain the House and all that kind of stuff. Every time you see a Steve Scalise on the news refusing to say that Biden won, that means he's nervous about 2022. Because without the lunatic right, he cannot get reelected. So they've got to play footsie with this. We definitely need to get the Voting Act passed. I do worry about the crap they're doing. Yeah, but honest to God, we can follow the law and Democrats can follow the law, and I'm not worried about it. And then there are way more white trash fringe rednecks that will fail to cross their T's and dot their I's when it comes to election laws than there are black people in the whole country. And so this idea that somehow disenfranchise a lot of black and brown people. So first of all, speaks down to black and brown people like they don't know how to vote, and they absolutely do. And that they can't follow the law or something like that. The only dangerous is the ones where they think they can overthrow the electorate because they think it was cheated or whatever. But they would have to prove so much to make that happen that it'd be nearly impossible. So, and it would be, that's where the Supreme Court gets involved. It'd be gnarly. But again, we're going to be off by a whole, it'll be too late, sort of. By the time they're complaining, it will be because a Democrat won. But by the time that's triggered, it will be an obvious win. Yeah. Trump Cosby. Oy. Trump said his rally, he was going with "Make America Great Again." I know. Oh God, we've seen that before though, and that they launched "Keep America Great Again" PAC or some shit because "Save America" just sounds so weak to them, and they're like, and apparently, and somebody mentioned this, and I brought it up on my show as well. Somebody on CNN was talking about this, and like, so he made America great, but he must have had shitty construction like all of his properties because that greatness lasted about 8 months. Like, so how great was it if Biden can, or anybody can capsize the greatness in less than 8 months? Obviously, it had no staying power. Cue Stormy McDaniel's jokes, right? MAGA. Right. MAGA. I prefer Blackadder, as do I. All Trumpian zombies are showing their kids governments to allow to be bullies and lie. Yeah, and I don't think it'll take, Lupe. After a while, it just gets tired. What do you end up having? A bunch of kids that rebel against their parents when it's time by just deciding not to be dicks. And maybe Barron will get a DNA test and be left alone. Or at least left at Tiffany's and downstairs. Hal's going to cough up a hairball. Put a bid in on Vancouver Tower. Maybe the whole MAGA thing is just burnout slogan. It is. It's not working. It didn't work again, in general. And the fact that you had 4 years. Fuck were you doing? You know what I mean? I ran on Making America Great Again. I was the greatest president that ever happened. And that greatness lasted all of 6 months. I mean, they were complaining that the country was being torn apart and wouldn't survive within 3 weeks. Like, well, then what good were you? You suck. If you're first of all, if you're a one-term president who gets voted out, and allegedly, this is always been the part that boggles my mind, that apparently your ass was kicked by like the volunteer class of the Democratic Party when you were the leader of the free world. You couldn't do it. They slapped those votes right out of your mouth. So funny. Yeah, we don't even have a country anymore. Well, then, great job being president. Apparently, all it took was 4 years, and we'd weathered World War II and the financial crash and Iran-Contra and the OPEC and inflation in the 70s and Nixon and World War I and the Civil War and stuff. But 4 years of Trump was enough to undermine the existence of the entire country. Go pound sand. It's just childish. It's so stupid. And I'm not buying it. It's, beyond the fact that it's a CCP talking point and that, there's plenty of Macedonian hacker farms that the Russians have set up to foment those kind of, BS reactions to everything. It's just lazy. Yeah, don't forget, give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the show. This is the morning show. We just kind of hang out, and I'm in L.A. right now, hence the different background and the different setup. And I appreciate you guys being here. It's a good time. And this afternoon I'll have a semi-regular show. I'm going to arrange the tech a little bit if I don't if I don't slip into a coma between now and then from my long drive, my early morning, and my late night going to sleep, and my very few hours before the cat stepped on my junk and woke me up. Lonnie's just waiting for him to pass. You can be sure. Yeah, can't say. I mean, I don't know what the arrangement is. Is anyone else not hearing him? Yeah, the Twitch thing is strange. Let me see if I can do. I'm gonna do something real quick, and I know I'm playing with fire, but we'll see. So, and see if Twitch just